Men often underestimate the weight of a woman's past, assuming it has no bearing on their future together. But the truth is, past choices, patterns, and unresolved wounds don't just vanish when she steps into a new relationship. They shape the way she loves, trusts, and commits, and if ignored, they can quietly erode the foundation of your future. This video isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. A man who closes his eyes to the reality of her past is often the one most blindsided later. What looks like harmless history can resurface in the form of emotional baggage, distrust, or habits that undermine respect and intimacy. If you fail to examine these things early, you may pay for them later, when it's already too late. Stoic wisdom reminds us, examine everything as if it were to be stripped bare. In relationships, this means seeing people as they are, not as you fantasize them to be. A wise man doesn't ignore history, he learns from it. Her past may not define her completely, but it does reveal patterns that can predict your future. So let me ask you directly, have you ever ignored red flags in someone's past because you were too focused on the present? Share your reflections in the comments, and if you stay until the end, I'll give you the one principle that can help you protect your future from someone else's past. A common mistake many men make is assuming that a woman's past has no impact on the relationship they build today. But the truth is, just as your past experiences shape who you are, her past shapes her mindset, her expectations, and the way she interacts with you. Ignoring that reality doesn't erase it, it only blinds you to how it can affect your future. Think about it this way. If a woman has a history of broken trust, failed relationships, or constant instability, those patterns don't simply vanish when she meets you. They often resurface in the form of insecurities, jealousy, or even a fear of commitment. A Stoic approach demands that a man looks at life as it is, not as he wishes it to be. Pretending the past is irrelevant is a failure to see reality clearly. Take an example. A man marries a woman who has consistently rushed into relationships and left them abruptly. He convinces himself, "I'm different. She won't do that to me." But years later, when tension arises, the same pattern repeats. The past was a roadmap, but he refused to read it. Awareness could have saved him heartache. This isn't about condemnation, it's about foresight. A woman can change just as a man can, but lasting change takes time, reflection, and responsibility. If she hasn't done that work, her past will spill into your present. What you ignore early will likely cost you later. Psychologists call this behavioral continuity, the idea that without intentional effort, people repeat the same mistakes over and over. Islam, Stoicism, and even modern science agree ignoring patterns is not wisdom, it's self-deception. So let me ask you, when you meet someone new, do you take her past seriously, or do you convince yourself it won't matter for you? Share your answer in the comments, because your awareness today might protect your future tomorrow. Every person carries emotional baggage, but the difference is whether they've worked through it, or whether they drag it into their next relationship. Many men ignore this in women because they confuse emotional intensity with passion, not realizing it may be unresolved wounds speaking louder than genuine love. Emotional baggage doesn't vanish just because she met someone new. It lingers until it is addressed. Consider a woman who has been betrayed in the past. Unless she has healed, she may bring constant suspicion into her new relationship. Her partner may find himself accused, monitored, or distrusted, not because of his own actions, but because of someone else's mistakes. A man who ignores this baggage tells himself, "She'll trust me in time," but often ends up crushed under the weight of issues that were never his to carry. From a Stoic perspective, this is dangerous because it binds you to circumstances outside your control. Epictetus warned, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." If she hasn't mastered her reactions to past pain, then you will live in the shadow of someone else's choices, and no amount of your patience will erase wounds she hasn't chosen to heal. Psychologists describe this as emotional displacement, when someone projects old wounds onto new relationships. Without therapy, self-reflection, or spiritual growth, this displacement continues, leaving the new partner feeling trapped in a cycle of guilt and defense. Let's put it simply. You cannot be her healer, her savior, and her partner at the same time. If her baggage is unresolved, it will eventually become yours. That doesn't mean she is unworthy of love, but it does mean you must discern whether she is ready for a healthy relationship or still fighting old battles. So here's the question. Are you carrying pain in your relationship that doesn't actually belong to you? Share your reflections in the comments, because recognizing emotional baggage early could save you years of frustration later. One of the hardest truths men ignore is that patterns repeat. A woman's past relationships often reveal how she responds to conflict, how she handles loyalty, and how she views commitment. If she has a track record of chaos, betrayal, or disrespect, don't assume you'll be the exception. Unless she has intentionally broken those cycles, they will reappear in your future together. Think of it like this. If a woman has left every partner the moment things became difficult, why believe she'll endure hardship with you? Or if her past shows constant drama and instability, why expect her to suddenly value peace? As the Stoics taught, the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, unless conscious change has taken place. Ignoring patterns is choosing blindness over wisdom. Take an example. A man dates a woman who admits she cheated in her last 2 relationships. She insists, "It's different with you." He convinces himself that his love will be enough to change her. But when temptation comes, the same story repeats. The man suffers not because he wasn't warned, but because he ignored the warning. Psychology supports this too. Researchers talk about behavioral consistency, which means people often act the same way across different situations unless they've deliberately worked on themselves. That's why paying attention to someone's history isn't judgment, it's clarity. This doesn't mean people can't change, they can, but change requires deep reflection, repentance, and time, not just words spoken in the heat of attraction. If she hasn't shown evidence of growth, assuming the past won't repeat is self-deception. So here's the reflection. When you look at someone's past, do you see genuine growth or the same patterns dressed in new words? Share your answer in the comments, because your ability to recognize repeating behavior could protect your peace and your future. Red flags rarely come as loud alarms. More often, they appear as small inconsistencies, subtle lies, or behaviors that don't sit right with you. Men often notice them, but choose to look the other way, hoping things will improve. The danger is simple. What you excuse at the beginning will cost you heavily in the end. From a Stoic perspective, this blindness is the opposite of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly. But if you cannot, accept that their behavior belongs to them, not to you." In relationships, this means that if she shows you patterns of disrespect or dishonesty early, you must acknowledge that it is her choice, and not convince yourself that love will change it. Ignoring red flags is not compassion, it is self-deception. A real-life example might look like this. She flirts openly with other men and brushes it off as harmless fun. Instead of addressing it, you tell yourself, "She'll stop once we're serious." Months later, the behavior escalates, and what felt like a small issue has now shattered trust. The cost isn't just heartbreak, it's wasted time, energy, and often self-respect. Psychologists call this escalation of commitment. People continue investing in a bad decision because they have already invested so much time and emotion, even when the evidence is clear. By the time men admit the truth, they've already built a life around someone who was showing them the truth from day one. The cost of ignoring red flags is not just emotional. It can also be financial, spiritual, and even generational. Marrying the wrong person, raising children in instability, or sacrificing your values to maintain a toxic bond are all heavy prices men pay when they fail to act early. So here's the question. Have you ever ignored a red flag only to regret it later? Share your story in the comments because your experience could open someone else's eyes before it's too late. The most powerful way to protect your future is not by fearing someone's past, but by sharpening your awareness and setting strong boundaries. Awareness allows you to see clearly without illusions, while boundaries prevent others from crossing into areas that destroy your peace and dignity. Together, they create a shield that keeps toxic patterns from controlling your life. A Stoic man doesn't avoid truth. He faces it head-on. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This means freedom in relationships comes from discipline, knowing your values, enforcing your standards, and refusing to compromise them for temporary pleasure. If you lack boundaries, someone else will set them for you. And they may not have your best interests at heart. For example, if she constantly disrespects your time or belittles your goals and you remain silent, you've silently agreed to that treatment. Boundaries are not about control. They are about self-respect by saying, "This is not acceptable to me. You teach others how to treat you." Without that, her past patterns will become your daily reality. Psychologists confirm that strong personal boundaries are linked to healthier, longer-lasting relationships. They reduce resentment, clarify expectations, and prevent cycles of manipulation. A man who ignores boundaries lives in reaction. A man who sets them lives with purpose. Protecting your future also means walking away when necessary. Awareness tells you when the risk outweighs the reward. Boundaries give you the courage to act on that awareness. Remember, you cannot control her past, but you can control whether it becomes your future. So let me ask you, are you living with clear awareness and boundaries, or are you leaving your future unguarded? Share your reflections in the comments, because protecting your tomorrow begins with the choices you make today. Her past doesn't have to ruin your future, but only if you approach it with open eyes and firm principles. The truth is simple. What you ignore now will shape your tomorrow. If you refuse to see the patterns, the baggage, and the red flags, you're not protecting love. You're gambling with your peace, your purpose, and your destiny. A Stoic man is not ruled by fear or desire. He stands firm in awareness, judges fairly, and sets boundaries that guard his dignity. This isn't about controlling anyone else, it's about mastering yourself so you don't get trapped in cycles that break you. Your strength lies not in ignoring reality, but in facing it with clarity and courage. So let me ask you, which part of this message struck you most? The truth about emotional baggage, the danger of repeating patterns, or the power of boundaries? Share your reflections in the comments. And if you stayed until the end, write seductive wisdom so I know you're part of this journey. Remember, your future is too valuable to let someone else's past decide it for you.